Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's Ask Danny Challenge. Every week here at Blue Door Media, we challenge our audience to write in a question about the natural world. I get to do a little bit of research, and then we learn about the topic together in a video. This week, we had a fantastic question from one of our esteemed audience members. Her name is Ellie, and she is 6 years old. And Ellie writes, "Hi, Danny. How big is a chimpanzee brain? I learned at school that a rhinoceros brain is very small, like a peanut. Are chimps' brains bigger? Are they smarter than a rhino?" Ellie, thank you so much for this question. I love talking about animals and their intelligence. It's one of the most fascinating things for me to talk about. So let's get right into it. You asked, let's talk about a rhino's brain first. So you were taught at school that their brains are very small, like a peanut. Now, rhinos do have very small brains, but it's compared to their body. So a rhino is a pretty big animal, and their brain comparatively is pretty small, but it's a little bit bigger than a peanut. It weighs about, a pound and a half. So to put that into perspective, our brains weigh 3 pounds. So it's about half the mass or size of our brains. Comparative to a rhino, which is much bigger than us, that's pretty small, right? Now, a chimpanzee's brain is about the same size as a rhino's. So again, about 3 times smaller than our brain. But a chimpanzee's body is much smaller than a rhino. So they have a bigger brain to body ratio, whereas a rhino has a smaller brain to body ratio. They have a really big body, kind of a small brain. Chimpanzee, pretty small body, comparatively pretty big brain. So you also asked, we answered how big a chimpanzee's brain is, about 3 times smaller than a human brain. So again, weighs about 1 pound, 1 to 1.5 pounds. And are chimps smarter than a rhino? So this is a really interesting question because it's really hard to answer. Most scientists would say yes, that chimpanzees are smarter than a rhinoceros. And that's because we know that chimps do things like make tools. They've been known to, they can learn words and they can work together. These are things that rhinos can't really do. And it has to do with not only just the size of the brain, but how the brain is kind of designed. So there's a part of our brain called the cerebral cortex, and that's where we store things like memories. It's where our attention and awareness comes from. Our cerebral cortex contains twice as many cells as a chimpanzee's. That doesn't mean necessarily that it's twice as big, but there's a lot more parts going on, or a lot more activity going on in that part of the brain for us. So we are better at things like attention, awareness, critical thinking, and memory than a chimpanzee. That being said, chimps are extremely intelligent. They're one of the most intelligent animals on the planet. Usually when we talk about intelligence in animals, we talk about 4 animals, and those are crows, chimps, dolphins, and elephants. Some scientists will throw animals like octopus in there. Pigs are also extremely intelligent. But the thing is, brains are not easy to study. Now, scientists say that the human brain is the most complex structure in the universe. That's pretty crazy. So brains are not easy to study at all. And we really don't know a ton about the human brain, never mind brains in other animals. So we still have a lot to learn about how brain size reflects intelligence and vice versa. Another thing that we don't often think about is we can't communicate with animals. Now, we know animals like dolphins can communicate with one another, but we are not able to communicate with them fully. We can give them commands that dolphins understand. A lot of dolphins understand hand commands, and they can respond to stimuli like a whistle, and they can know or associate a command with a sound, things like that. But we can't just have a conversation with a dolphin. That would be really cool. Wish we could. Maybe we can one day. But that's why it makes it so difficult. It's hard for us to gauge intelligence in animals that we can't communicate with. It's hard for us to give them tests. It's hard for us to even know what intelligence would look like for an animal. We know for humans, we judge intelligence by things like taking a test. But how would we give a dolphin, or a chimpanzee for that matter, a test? We can't even communicate with them. So we still have a lot to learn about brains and how intelligent animals are. Thank you so much for your question, Ellie. If you are curious about this topic for more, if you would want some more information on the topic, please have your mom send me another email and we can talk about it again. Thank you so much for your question. I hope you stay curious about animals' brains. And we need kids like you to grow up and study these things so we can figure all these things out. And then when I do my videos, I can have better answers. Thank you so much for your question, Ellie. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to challenge our audience again. Please send in some questions about the natural world. It could be a question about an animal. It could be a question about our climate. It could be a question about space. Anything to do with the natural world. And we will feature it in next week's video in the Ask Danny segment of our email newsletter. Thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. Again, my name is Danny. I'm here with Blue Door Media, and I will see you all next week. Peace.